Most people struggle to respond when somebody asks the all too familiar question, what do you do? And because of that, they're missing out on marketing opportunities every day. My name is Kurt Stockwell, and as a StoryBrand certified guide with over 11 years of marketing experience, I've helped hundreds of businesses create marketing that actually works. You're listening to the One-Liner Workshop podcast, and in every episode, you'll learn how to create a powerful one-liner that'll make people want to do business with you. Jarrod Carter is a forensic scientist and owner of Origin Forensics. Jarrod's biggest struggle when answering the question, what do you do, is trying to clarify the assumptions that people make about his industry while avoiding the desire to over-explain using jargon and inside language. The desire to over-explain is something we all struggle with. However, if you begin your answer with a problem that anyone can understand, it opens a story loop in the mind of your audience, and they will be compelled to let you lead them to clarity. Today, Jarrod and I will do this and give him more opportunities for creating business with a clear and memorable one-liner. Let's get started. I've been really looking forward to this conversation because what you do is so interesting, and I bet also very hard to explain in a couple sentences. So tell me a little bit about your industry.
So the industry I'm in is, I would classify it broadly as forensics, and specifically as automotive forensics. Crash, it's commonly referred to as accident reconstruction, although you get into questions of whether or not accidents are truly accidents in a lot of things. So I tend to refer to it as crash reconstruction. And then I also do what's known as injury analysis, or broadly speaking, biomechanics. So that's all related to automotive crashes where there's likelihood of injury associated with a given crash. It's, forensics is a broad umbrella term. But forensics really just means the bringing science to the courtroom. So you're bringing scientific principles to the courtroom and trying to explain it to people that probably don't have a solid scientific background.
So you're in courtrooms a lot. Like your team does the analysis, the data capture, all those kind of things of the accident scene, and then you are presenting these in a courtroom or to, would it be to lawyers?
Yeah, so the courtroom part is actually fairly rare. You might think that you end up in the courtroom more often than you actually do. What we end up spending most of our time doing is, like you said, data collection. So collecting evidence, collecting data, and then analyzing the data. And usually our first place where we're going to lay things out is in front of an attorney or a group of attorneys or other experts that are working or hired for the same matter. And we're there to explain, this is the crash, this is what happened in the crash. And in the instance where I'm explaining how the injuries occurred, or what portion of the crash, what events in the crash led to the injuries, I'm explaining the mechanism by which those injuries were created during the course of the crash. So that's usually the first touch point, if you will. And then after that, usually that's like we're explaining it to the attorneys and other experts. And then usually there's a report phase where you go in and you actually consolidate all the analysis down, all the evidence down, and lay everything out in hopefully coherent form in a report with exhibits attached and references to scientific articles and things of that nature. If it gets past that stage, then usually what you're talking about is what's called a deposition. And so then you get to where a deposition is like testifying in trial, but there's no jury and there's no judge. It's just you, the attorney that hired you, who's quote unquote defending your deposition, and then the opposing attorney who's taking your deposition and is going to be asking you questions about your analysis, what you did, how you came to certain conclusions, what evidence you relied on, things of that nature. If it makes it past that stage, then it's on to the trial stage. And that's why it's kind of every case you winnow the cases down, and the ones that are really few are going to make it to the point where they get past deposition and they're they're bound for trial. It seems like the majority of cases settle after reports or after deposition, and then if the parties are just nowhere near agreement, there's just no way to convince one side or the other that they're either right or wrong. Then you move on to the jury or to the trial stage.
Got it. That's why the getting to the final courtroom is actually kind of rare, because usually there's an off ramp at some point where there's like you said, a decision made, or both parties kind of agree or whatever.
Yeah. Inevitably it boils down to as long as everybody can somewhat agree on the facts, and even if they don't agree on the facts, inevitably it seems like it boils down to money.
Okay.
Are the two sides, are they coming to an agreement that is reasonable for both? Like the one side is willing to pay that amount and the other side's willing to accept the amount that the first side is willing to pay. So
yeah, got it.
Unfortunately, that's kind of the way.
So your customer, like who is most impacted by your marketing and who you care to understand your marketing, is lawyers?
By and large, yes. Lawyers, and then the other place where we get involved is with what I would call insurance claims adjusters. And then on the rare occasion we get called by law enforcement, but that's usually I wouldn't say that is a target market, so to speak. They tend to want to keep everything pretty close to the vest. They don't bring outside people in very often. So.
Got it. So lawyers and insurance claim adjusters are the people who would be coming to your website, or who you care most to understand what you do and how you uniquely solve it. And then there's also one of the things that's a beauty about crafting a one-liner that anybody can understand is you never know where that next customer might be. I often say that if your one-liner can be understood at a backyard barbecue with Joe Lunchbox standing in front of you, you never know who he knows or she knows, Joanne Lunchbox, I guess. Yeah. And that referral could be 2 degrees of separation, and you've got a great client. So one of the things that I often tell businesses when we work through messaging is you need to make it clear enough for anybody to understand, because that's how you make it memorable and repeatable. And that's a big part of what we're doing today. So what's your biggest struggle when you have to describe what you do in a concise way?
When I try to describe it in a concise way, if I say forensics, most people think they know what forensics means.
Yeah, they're like, CSI. Yeah, I totally know what that is.
Yeah, exactly. And then before you know it, you've already created an impression. So that's usually why I followed up with, I'm a forensic consultant. I specialize in crash reconstruction. And then usually that's sufficient for people to kind of put things together, and they start to say, oh, forensics, crash reconstruction. And then usually they catch on enough to be, oh, do you work for an insurance company, or do you work for the police, or who do you work for usually? So that's usually what I'm saying. They ask me what I do. I say forensic consultant, and I reconstruct car crashes, or I do crash reconstruction, something along those lines. And then if they're interested, they'll ask me further questions beyond that. But I try to make it just a very few words.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of, and good job. That's exactly what you want to do. The idea of, one of the things that's hard to answer the question, when you try to answer the question, what do? You feel like you have to bring so much to that answer that you're going to try to mitigate any confusion that this person might have about what you do, and ultimately what you do is you confuse them more. So it sounds like you've had enough blank stares, when you said forensics, that you're like crash reconstruction. So people
it seems like most people anymore, are familiar with forensics broadly speaking. Like they kind of understand what
because
forensics,
of CSI.
Yeah, exactly. They kind of understand what forensics might mean. They've seen enough police drama like Law and Order or CSI or what have you. They kind of have an understanding of forensics as science in the courtroom. They kind of understand that. But forensics, like I said at the beginning, forensics is so broad and it's such an umbrella term that it can mean anybody from somebody who's analyzing DNA or thumbprints or blood stains or bullet casings or, tire prints or shoe prints or.
Yeah. And that's exactly where my brain goes, is immediately blood splatter and fingerprints and hair's DNA samples. And we've all seen Dateline. We've all seen the shows where they nab some guy that was a serial killer in the 70s and they get him in 2014 because they picked up a water bottle out of his trash and did a DNA sample and they got the guy.
That's exactly right.
You tell I just watched an episode of something that literally just happened. But you're not digging around in trash cans looking for water bottles. You're doing crash reconstruction.
No, I'm digging around in cars and digging around on crash sites looking for evidence.
There you go.
What I'm usually that's what I wouldn't say I spend the majority of my time doing that, the actual physical part of it.
Yeah.
But I do a fair amount of that, and then also digging through materials. Like we get a bunch of data, and so we've got to parse through all of it and then try what's useful, what's not useful. And so there's a lot that goes into it, and so it is. I mean, it's forensics. It's just not the forensics that, like you said, you're familiar with.
What is the biggest problem or pain point that most of your customers face? Like, what do you ultimately solve for them? What is the biggest thing that these lawyers and claim adjusters are looking for as a solution to a problem?
Well, what I would say, so it seems to me that there's a couple of pain points that leap out to my mind. So with sort of at the end, at the final hurdle, the big pain point is this person that I'm engaging for this matter based on their expertise or their claimed expertise. If I put them in front of a jury, are they going to fall apart and be totally useless, or basically come off as a pompous, arrogant jackass in front of the jury, and the jury will never listen to a thing they say? Or are they going to sound like they don't know what they're doing in the first place? That's a big pain point, and it's hard for attorneys to know that ahead of time. And what they tend to get is they tend to go with people that they know have been tested, right? They know this person has testified in trial. They've got a recommendation from another attorney who said, yeah, that person is good on the stand. They do a really good job explaining things. So that's a pain point that, we could discuss further. I don't know if there's a real easy way to solve that in a marketing sense.
Would you say that they're looking for expertise they can rely on?
Well, they're looking for expertise they can rely on, but they're also looking for expertise that won't go over the average juror's head. They're looking for expertise that has the capability of taking something, at a high level that's really complex, boiling it down to its essence and using terminology to explain it to a jury in a way that the jury doesn't basically have their eyes glazed over and they start falling asleep. And that's a difficult job to do. I mean, I've done it, but it's hard to do. It's really hard to take 12 people you've never met and try to convey something that took you decades to learn in a way that they'll easily understand. And do it in a way that you're not coming off like some jackass that they wouldn't really listen to anyway. Right?
Yeah.
And that's
go ahead. Like the cocky IT guy or something, right?
Or like the arrogant professor, right?
Sure.
Like you people you'll never get this. It's too far. It's too much for you. You're just not smart. If you come off like that, well, I mean, I guess you could get away with it once, but you're probably not going to get away with it more than once or twice, I would think.
Okay, so how do you guys uniquely solve that problem?
Well, I think I don't know that there's a way that you could solve that problem. The attorneys seem to solve that. It's kind of what I said. Is like, I don't know that there's a marketing way, and that's why I think I'd be open to your suggestion. Really, is like, how would you you market that in some way, shape, or form?
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like attorneys solve it by they have their own internal dialogues going on one to another, and when they're looking for an expert in a certain discipline, they talk to each other, and then they get referrals on who's a good witness, who's somebody who's technically knowledgeable in this area and can also explain it to people. And so they're really doing that sort of problem solving or hurdle jumping, if you will, themselves. And so I'm curious to know from your perspective if you think that there's even a way to solve that. I can't think of something, but maybe I'm just not looking at it the right way.
Well, what's your approach then?
I want to give them some level of comfort from the get-go that they can trust me and that I'm going to be able to explain things well to them from the get-go. So usually I'm trying to make sure that I'm as open to dialogue and discussion with them early on as possible, and that I'm trying to help them understand all the potential nuances and also give them, using my own knowledge, my own experience, give them some explanations of certain aspects of the case that they may not have thought of, that only somebody with my background and experience would know, and then help them understand why that's important. Or to just in very simple terms, just take some photos that they've sent us that they want us to look at and say, okay, I want you to look through these photos with me, and I'm going to go through a presentation with you and show you what I see in these photos, help you understand it, help lay out what I think the crash sequence is going to look like for this case now, without really having done much, without having gone out and collected a bunch of information, done a bunch of inspections. So that's kind of the first touch, if you will.
So you'll like get on a call with them or go to a meeting with them and say, let's look at this data together, right, and let me explain it to you in a way that you can turn around and make it clear and relatable.
Right.
What's the feedback that you've gotten from your customers about how they feel, how they about succeeding with this evidence that you've helped them work through? And kind of what do your raving fans say about working with you guys?
So what we tend to get, and I'm not trying to be arrogant, nor am I trying to be humble about this, but what we tend to get is we've never seen anybody as thorough as you guys are. We've never seen anybody as thorough and as able to explain this complex stuff in a way that makes sense. And that's the one thing I try to hold on to is it's like the benefit of obsessive compulsive disorder in a way, but relatable obsessive compulsive disorder. Like I have it, but I'm not defined by it, nor am I crippled by it. But I'm able to take that sort of obsessive compulsive problem that I have of I need to know the answer, and it assists me or it benefits me, because when I want to know the answer, I just dig in and I just look at everything. And I try to be as thorough as I possibly can. And the feedback that we get from clients is, again, just to reiterate, we've never had anybody give us a reconstruction of a crash that is this thorough before. And I think that even from the very first touch with them, where you're going through just the basic stuff, usually they send you what I call a care package. They send you an initial batch of materials that is usually constituted by a police report and some photos at the scene, maybe some witness statements, things of that nature. So basic sort of gives you a basic sense of what happened in the crash. And being able to go through that with a fine-tooth comb and pick out all the little nitty-gritty details, and then go through it with them and say, okay, here's the things that I see that I think are worth noting. Here's what I think this crash looks like. Here's the things I think we need to do next, things we need to focus on. And then let them, through that process, come to the understanding of, oh, okay, I feel confident that these guys know what they're doing, that they're not going to lead me astray, that they're going to give me the good details. And I'm also confident that because I understood what the hell they were saying, that I'm not lost, and two, I don't think a jury's going to be lost when they try to explain it to a jury.
At the end of the day, your thorough process allows them to win their cases and find justice for their clients. Would you say that's true?
I would say that's true, yeah.
Okay.
Find justice for their clients or make the right decision, right? So sometimes it's they want to know whether this case is bad for them and what do they do about it? How can they make a decision? And that could be good for their client, right? So if you explain to them, look, this case looks really bad for your client.
That's true. I guess you could be on the side of like you're working with the lawyer and they're like, oh, all of this evidence proves that it was this person's fault. And you get to and actually you and I have talked about a case some years ago where the people who hired you ended up proving that actually you guys were at fault.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
and so I'm
actually,
sure there's.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and I'm sure that's difficult sometimes to be like the evidence shows that. So to say that find justice for their clients, that it might not necessarily be the case all the time. It's making the right decisions for their clients.
Correct. Helping them to help their clients make the right decision.
Got it.
Sometimes, in the past, I've had cases where, the attorney that I'm working for is a criminal defense attorney, and their client is, somebody who's being accused of a crime. And they bring a bunch of stuff to me and ask me to reconstruct the crash, and I explain it to them, and I basically say, look, I know you're trying to defend your client, but unfortunately, your client was criminally at fault here, and probably should do some time. Should have to face the consequences and take responsibility for the things that he or she did. And that is, that's a tough discussion to have, because a lot of times they don't want to hear it. But it's even difficult to have with clients where it's, they're representing an auto manufacturer or a big company. You're trying to help them understand, look, this particular situation does not look good for your client. You need to help them understand that, because that may in turn help them decide, well, I think it's probably best if we settle this case. And in that way, it's providing justice to the people who are bringing the lawsuit. If you're on the defense side in a civil case, for instance.
Right.
So, there is justice. I would like to think that there's justice meted out, but it may not be necessarily justice for your client. Maybe justice for the other side. Maybe your client needed to know so that they can make the right decision for the person that's bringing the suit. Does that make sense?
Right. So I think that I've got a pretty good handle on so taking all of that we just talked about and putting it into 2 sentences. How do we do that? Never mind. I give up. No, I think we got a good way.
You're a wizard, so let me.
We got a good way to do this. Right.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by stating the problem or the pain point that your clients face that most people will understand. So the problem that I heard you state is that when an auto, is it mostly auto accidents, like one car is crashing into another or went off the road, and is it mostly it's auto vehicles, right?
It's mostly
by and large,
mostly automobiles, some commercial vehicles.
Got it.
That
but it's a vehicle on the road.
It's a vehicle or vehicles. Yes.
Got it. So when we say so when a auto accident occurs, and are there deaths involved every single time, or is there property damage? Is it mostly property damage? Most
property damage doesn't usually end up in my office. At least if it does, it seems to be fairly rare. Most of the time it's anything from a minor injury all the way up to a fatal injury or a fatality.
But it's an injury to person or persons.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why it's broadly characterized as it's a personal injury case of some sort. And there's different flavors of that, but it's personal injury.
So when an auto accident occurs resulting in death or injury, lawyers and insurance companies need to know what happened.
Yeah, I would say they definitely need to know. They need to know what really took place in that crash.
As an accident reconstruction. So here's the here's the thing that you'd be like, that's not really my title, but it makes sense to Joe Lunchbox or Joanne Lunchbox. As an accident reconstruction specialist, I provide them with clear, relatable evidence.
I'd say
because as a forensics, but I think actually you could get away with saying forensics here actually, because you've already formulated the fact that there's an auto accident. There's lawyers and insurance companies. They need to know what happened. As a forensic specialist or as a forensics scientist.
Yeah.
Because you've already framed the fact that there's an auto accident. You don't have to say accident reconstruction. You could actually get away with forensics, I think, at that point, which I think the word forensics is cool.
Yeah. I like it. I'm just trying to, my engineering brain always wants to over specify, and that's a problem.
That's why you were talking. Are you a scientist?
I would classify myself as a scientist. Yeah.
Let's say scientist.
Forensic scientist. Sure.
I think that's badass. I wish I had forensic scientist on my business card, except it requires a lot of school. I wasn't really very good in school. I could put forensic scientist on my business card. I just won't go to school for it.
I'm kind of wondering if that might be redundant though, because I'm just thinking about the definition of forensics.
Oh, now you're getting in the weeds in your own brain. Like forensic and scientist is the same thing. But I'm telling you, the average Joe is like, that makes sense to me.
Okay, no, that's fine. I mean, sure.
If you're talking to somebody at the backyard barbecue and they're like, actually, forensic and scientist means the same thing. What do you even mean?
Yeah, then
you guys are having. So here's what we came up with. When an auto accident occurs resulting in injury or death, lawyers or insurance companies need to know what happened. As a forensic scientist, I provide them with clear, relatable evidence, which allows them to make the right decisions for their clients.
That's pretty clear. Yeah.
Now,
I think that makes sense.
I love the fact that you're a forensic scientist, and I think that that's such a cool word that people are intrigued by. But when you frame it with, rather than saying I'm a forensic scientist, you start it with understanding the problem, which is an auto accident occurs. People need to know what happened.
Right.
And so as a forensic scientist, I provide them with clear, relatable evidence, which allows them to make the right decisions for their clients.
Yep.
So now, if we wanted to shave off, sometimes what I'll do is I'll go back on a one-liner and I'll keep trying to drop words and where it still makes sense. You could actually get away with saying, as a forensic scientist, I provide them with clear evidence,
right,
which allows them to make the right decisions for their clients. But clear and relatable, I think that still works.
Mm-hmm.
We always try to remove commas as much as possible when we're trying to get this down into a couple sentences. But where you can take this, again, we've talked about the backyard barbecue, but if you think about like let's say you're sponsoring an event. I know you guys have sponsored different things around town. You could say that you could have this as a description of you. When an auto accident occurs resulting in injury or death, lawyers or insurance companies need to know what happened. Jarrod Carter is a forensic scientist who provides them with clear, relatable evidence, right? Or when an auto accident occurs resulting in injury or death, lawyers or insurance companies need to know what happened. Origin Forensics provides them with clear, relatable evidence, which allows them to make the right decision for their clients. And so you've you put it into, let's say it's a back of a rack card, or it's in it's in some sort of a display at this event, and people go, oh, that makes sense to me. Or maybe you're getting introduced into as a speaker, or you're getting introduced on a podcast, or you could even take, let's say you're creating something for your specific clients, which are lawyers or insurance companies. You could take the back part of this one-liner and say, clear, relatable evidence, which allows you to make the right decisions for your clients.
Yep.
So what I love about doing this exercise where we're breaking down a complex thing into super simple, relatable sentences is you can just start to pull it apart and put it into different areas of your messaging.
Mm-hmm. I like it. It's very
cool, man.
concise. It's very concise.
Cool. Well, jump in the chat there and copy and paste that down into something that I
already did.
Use.
I already did.
Nice.
I'm no grass growing under me.
That's awesome. And what's a great thing about this too is if I know you've got a staff of 4 to 6 people now. You got 6 people, I think, right?
1, 2, 3. Yeah, we got 6 now. Yep.
So share this with the team, because the team should be able to answer this question too. Right.
Yeah. No, I am definitely going to share this around. Maybe we can find some ways to massage it and tweak it a little bit. But
yeah,
I mean, it's a good foundation. I like it. I love it. So
cool,
this is you must be difficult for you to try to switch from different companies with different specific things that they do and try to come up with the same pitch or the same formulation of a pitch, I guess.
Yeah, the beauty of it is you start with the kind of the story brand process, and you just kind of strip out a few parts. So a big part of the story brand process is understanding the problem that you solve.
Okay.
Right. And then as the guide, you're stating how you do that in a unique way with empathy. There's not a lot of space in a one-liner to put a lot of empathy in it. But then another piece of the story brand framework is success. So we're just taking, the 7 parts of the story brand framework is character, problem, guide, call to action, steps, success, and failure. We're just, for the sake of a one-liner where you can't stuff that all into 2 or 3 sentences, we're just taking the character, problem, guide, and success.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Gotcha.
we've got the character, which are lawyers and insurance companies. We've got the problem is they need relatable evidence, and the fact that they need to know what happened. We've got the guide, which is you providing them clear, relatable evidence, forensic scientists, and then the success, it allows them to make the right decisions. So those are the chords in the song, and we're just rather than playing 7 chords, we're only playing 4, and we're making beautiful music together.
Isn't there like a whole music industry that's devoted to like 3 or 4 chords and that's it? I mean, I'm not a music guy.
Like church worship music, I think is only 3 or 4 chords, and I think punk maybe is only 3 or 4 chords too. Yeah, so we could either do some Hillsong song, maybe some Green Day or something. We could make some Green Day songs.
There you go. Nice and simple.
Nice and simple. We like nice and simple. Hey man, I appreciate your time. I'll let you get on with the rest of your day. I hope this is going to be a big help for you guys.
Yeah, well, thanks for the invite. I appreciate it, Kurt.
Well, that's all for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Follow the One-Liner Workshop wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember, businesses that succeed in today's marketplace invest in clarity and reject confusion. A one-liner is the first step in creating marketing that works. And if you're ready to take all your marketing to the next level, please visit welldressedwalrus.com and schedule a free consultation with me. I'll see you next time for the next episode of the One-Liner Workshop.